the
Yeah,
second ranked team, or I sorry, the second best team in the AFC North last year, the Baltimore Ravens. And so, and I think that they had, after doing some research, they actually, speaking of Alejandro Villanueva, they got rid of Orlando Brown Jr. And brought in Alejandro Villanueva from the Steelers, which
yeah,
actually I kind of always liked when teams did that from interdivision, because you're going to get some little insider information, I think, as well, on some
yeah.
tidbits. I think that can help
But
play against the
but
Steelers.
it's also something that teams have done for years is just take good players from teams in your
Mhm.
division and bring them to yours. And I think Alejandro Villanueva, even though he's a little bit older, I want to say he's 32 or 33. Um, I think he brings a good veteran presence to that offensive line that they kind of
Yeah.
needed after they lost Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mhm.
for me, their losses on the defensive side of the ball are a little bit more, I guess, frightening. They lost Matt Judon to the Patriots. Unique Ngakwe, who really didn't contribute for them that much, left, and then they also lost a third defensive end. And for me, that defensive front seven was kind of their strength, especially in the playoffs against Tennessee. They didn't really allow Derrick Henry to move forward at all,
Mhm.
and kind of won them that game. And so they also play an aggressive style of defense. I know Marcus Peters likes to play more of a man coverage style. And without a defensive
Yeah.
front seven that can really get after the quarterback and make them have to throw the football, I'm curious to see if that will impact their secondary at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it'll be interesting. Yeah, 'cause I know Matt Judon was their sack leader, and he moved on to the Patriots, and so. But with
mhm.
just 6 sacks, though, I feel like that's much easier to kind of pick up and replace, because if I'm not mistaken, majority of their other sack
Yeah,
leaders are still on the team. And drafting Odefe Owe, I think I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I didn't. Uh,
Odafe Owe.
yeah, yeah, Odafe Owe. Oh, that's okay. I'll just need to remember that.
Yeah, yeah,
Drafting him, I believe, is going to try. If he can have half the contribution in sacks, so just 3 sacks, I think they can probably find 3 other sacks. I think there'll be opportunities as well. So
hmm
yes, they do have one of the better secondaries and linebacking core in the nation.
yeah,
And so yeah, just can they continue to have that added pass pressure? Uh, will be key for them, because they do like to play a physical style up front. For me, though, actually, I think maybe little losses on their defensive side uh, is counteracted by the additions that they brought on the offensive line. So I already mentioned
yeah,
Alejandro Villanueva, but then they also signed offensive guard Ryan Zietler as well, who is a very solid very solid run blocker to begin with. But he's actually a phenomenal pass protector, and has historically done very well. And I think that's
hmm
actually going to be huge, because the Ravens' entire offensive scheme, to me, is kind of run through, is obviously run through Lamar Jackson's ability to run, but also throw the ball. So now you have him teamed up with J.K. Dobbins. If they can perfect that RPO, and Lamar Jackson can read the defense, and if
yeah,
you can have an offensive line in front of him that is very solid in both aspects of that, and the run and running and pass blocking as well, uh, we might see some MVP like numbers from Lamar Jackson as well, because one of the issues
yeah,
last year is it felt like the offensive line uh, kind of didn't give him enough time
yeah.
to read through some of his progressions, and with him not as being, in my opinion, as skilled of a passer or as elite of a passer, I think that had some toll on his passing numbers. Um,
Yeah.
but that all being said, though, he still rushed. I think he rushed for 1,000 yards last year, and 7 touchdowns. And so, he's the definition of a dual threat quarterback that is able to
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, he
that
can
that
throw
just
for
watch.
3,000. He can throw for
He
3,000, rush for
Yeah,
1,000, and have 35 combined touchdowns, which I mean, that
that's not unrealistic, and that's pretty
no,
solid.
yeah.
Well, but then you
If
also
he if
added,
he can throw for 3,500 yards,
yeah,
and keep the 1,000 rushing yards, I think he'll get another MVP for that. But I think the Ravens exceed what I have them ranked at. So my
mhm,
biggest thing is I can tell with their additions at wide receiver that one, they knew it was a need, but also I think they're going to try and utilize the passing game more and kind of try to utilize some of that to open up uh, the run game.
Hmm.
And so for me,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
there's a concern with Lamar Jackson's ability to throw the ball. So far in the league, a lot of what he's done has been fairly basic as far as passing scheme wise, and he's been able to do it really well. But I think a lot of his success is that teams really have to respect his running ability,
Hmm.
and if the Ravens try and throw the ball more, will Lamar Jackson actually really be able to keep up with
Yeah,
the increased complexity of a passing offense, as well as like the actual physical ability to make the throws. So,
yeah. Well, and he has some solid weapons as well to throw to. So it's not just even with Lamar Jackson. I just in the running backs, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins combined for 15 touchdowns last year and 1,500 rushing yards as well. But then now with the addition of Sammy Watkins, he's going to be replacing Willie Snead, and
mhm.
I think you might be able to get a little bit more production if Sammy Watkins is able to stay healthy. And that's just another weapon that the defense has to pay attention to instead of putting 8 guys in the box, kind of like what you're saying. Uh,
Yeah.
they're going to put 7 guys in the box. That's just going to be a little bit more space for Lamar Jackson and that offense to run. And so it, I can, I really actually after doing all this research, it is bringing in some good uh, uh, um, just some good views in my eyes as well. Just
Mhm.
where this Ravens team looks foundationally, they have a solid core or a better core up front. They still have some question marks at the left guard and center position that are hopefully can be addressed and improved upon. But you have 3 solid offensive linemen that can help protect Lamar Jackson moving forward. And the defense,
Mhm.
yeah, as you mentioned, they did lose Matt Judon, but I don't think that's going to be as big an issue when you. And I think they had a pretty good draft class as with Odafe away coming and can hopefully
Mhm.
fill up some of those holes.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like the Rashad Bateman pick on the offensive side. The
That's
thing
true.
is for
Yeah.
me is I think it left question marks on the defensive side of the ball. And so I, that for me is a little bit of a concern that there are some question marks on that. But
Hmm.
I want to say Calais Campbell is still there,
Yep. He is.
and Marcus Peters, and then who's their second corner? Um,
I just had
why
it
can't I
up.
think of it?
Oh, now my computer's going slow. Who is it? We were
I
just
know,
looking
yeah,
at
mine
this
is too.
earlier. Yeah.
Um, but I know they have good corner depth,
Yeah.
uh, and so uh, hold on, I thought I just saw it. Marlon Humphrey,
Yep. Hmm. That sounds right.
and so I know they have good corner depth. Uh, I'm just curious, and they're also in what was the toughest division last year. So I don't know. My record prediction for them was 9-8, but I think they could. To me, this is the team that was probably hardest to predict, um,
Hmm.
just because, like I said, there are question marks in that defensive front, um, and they're also again in a tough division. So I had them going 9-8, but I very much could see them going 11-6, or even 6-11, kind of in that range. So I don't know. What did you have them at?
So I think they're going to be closer to 500, either on the plus or on the plus or minus side. They're going to have some
Mhm.
toss up games. It's going to come down to the division. I think just their divisional games. They have to play the NFC North as well, and I think they can win all those games except for the Packers game. Personally, they're a little bit more well rounded, have a much better defense than the Steelers. Um, and well, sorry, don't have better defense than the Steelers. I think their defenses are comparable for sure,
Mhm.
but their offense is going to be the question mark. If they can have a very well balanced offense, then I think they might be able to beat the Packers. But anyways, I say that. So that's 3 wins right there. I think they could potentially sweep the Bengals. I think they'll split with the Browns, and and then let's say they split with the Steelers, so that's 4 wins right there. So that's 7, and going to pick up a couple other games here and there. And I know they're playing the AFC West. I think they can beat the
Mhm.
Raiders and the Broncos. So yeah, I think they're going to be around 9 or 10 games this year, and they're playing the Panthers in the preseason. So that game doesn't matter. So I was looking at the schedule and they kind of blended in there. But yeah, so
Yeah, yeah,
I think they can be anywhere from that 10-11 range, but if things just don't go their way, they can also be in that 7 to 8
yeah.
range as well. So
Mhm.
it's going to be very interesting. I don't see them being a juggernaut and just throwing up points against some teams, but I also don't see them like getting blown out in any of the games as well because their defense is going to be very solid, which is going to help them stay in some games.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's an interesting outlook for the Ravens in 2021, but I think that's gonna wrap up for the Ravens. Really,